We turn now to the case of Melissa Lucio, a woman in Texas who has been on death row for 14 years. New evidence recently brought to light in the case could prove her innocence, as many believe she was denied due process under the law when she was initially sentenced. Catholic Church teaching on the death penalty has been revised over time, most recently being changed in 2018 by Pope Francis. St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas, among several others, wrote that the death penalty is justified when no other means can protect the common good. Now, the Church's teaching on the matter states that the death penalty is inadmissible because it is an attack on the inviolability and dignity of the person. And joining me now to discuss is Representative Louie Gohmert, who represents Texas's 2nd Congressional District. Representative Gohmert, thanks for joining me. Melissa Lucio was charged with the abuse and murder of her young daughter, Mariah, and was sentenced to the death penalty. But now new evidence could prove her innocence. And even Republican state lawmakers who have stood in support of the death penalty in the past are working to delay her execution. Now, what are your thoughts on this? We know that the death penalty goes against our inherent rights as human beings.
Well, as one of the few people, if not the only person, certainly the only Republican in Congress to have been court appointed to appeal a capital murder conviction and had that case reversed, it does bring back some memories. And what I argued to the highest criminal court in Texas, down in Austin, in that case was, look, I'm not here to say the death penalty may not be appropriate in some cases, but I am saying that in any case in which it's used, there has to be complete following of the law, and there has to be due process. And in this case, there was not due process. That was in the case I was arguing. So in reading articles about the Lucio case, it brings to memory that comment I made before our highest court, because it sounds like there was a problem with due process in this case. And you simply cannot ever use the irreconcilable, irreparable death penalty if there hasn't been due process. It's just absolutely wrong, and it should never happen.
And Representative Gohmert, as strong pro-life people of faith, how are we supposed to treat cases where people have been sentenced to death?
Well, under the law, it's absolutely critical that there be due process, and there had not been in the case that I argued years ago in Texas before our highest criminal court in Austin. And it sure sounds like there was not due process in the Lucio case. So it is, you use the law. Efforts to attack the death penalty have not been successful in the past. And so the first best thing to do is right off the bat, just pore over the transcript, look for any items that make clear someone did not get a fair trial. But it does bring a difficulty. You know, Romans 13:4 says, if you do evil, be afraid, because God doesn't give basically the government the sword in vain. So there's been debate ever since the Bible. Of course, the Old Testament talks about an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but that changed when Jesus came. But as Christians, no matter what, we should be ministering to anyone that's involved as a defendant. And in the meantime, we ought to be going after the Department of Justice to make sure that they are not leading criminal assaults through the justice system, so that we can make sure people are treated fairly.
Well, thank you for your expertise on that case and your point of view. I want to shift gears to get your reaction on the draft opinion on the Dobbs case that was written by Justice Alito. We know that it's not final, but it does seem like it could be a great victory.
Well, it does, but Prudence, you've got to look at who was advantaged by leaking, by the draft opinion being leaked. And we know now from the statement of the Supreme Court, this was a legitimate first draft by Justice Alito. So it certainly does not inure to the benefit of anyone who was considering being part of the majority. But obviously those who were in the dissent at this point are greatly advantaged by getting information out to people like Schumer and others who have threatened the Supreme Court. And we've already had protests already out in the street in front of the Supreme Court. So it certainly would appear that the first suspects in leaking this draft opinion, I don't recall ever in my lifetime seeing a first draft opinion before until the opinion came out officially. So whoever leaked this opinion, first of all, should be impeached, removed, and never allowed in a federal court as a judge or justice ever again. That needs to be done. And hopefully if we get the majority next year, then that can be and will be done. If there's more than one, then we'll have a couple of openings at the Supreme Court. We cannot allow someone that's this evil, this devious, this manipulative, that would invite more attacks on Supreme Court justices to sit on the Supreme Court. They've got to go.
Thank you so much, Rep. Louie Gohmert, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks, Prudence.